Today it may sound strange, but there was a time in American history when capitalism didn't just feel unfair. It felt unstable, ready to explode, and almost suicidal as a system. The world was getting richer fast, true. But this wealth was concentrated almost entirely in the hands of a very small group. For everyone else, life meant being crushed under a system of hard labor, endless economic ups and downs, and power gathered in the hands of a few men. This wasn't just inequality. It was the kind of distortion that could cause a nation to crack. Moreover, if you had asked back then, "Can the government do anything?" many people would have laughed. The oligarchs were too powerful, politics was on their side, and the system was rigid to its core. But it is exactly in such moments that nations tend to make their most radical decisions. America, too, decided to take action to fix the system before capitalism dragged the country completely to the bottom. Welcome to ROGUENOMİCSS. We are exploring together that twisted galaxy where money, power, and historical time collide. To tell you this whole story, we go back to the late 1800s. Railroads were connecting two separate land masses, the continents. Steel was turning into skyscrapers, oil was lighting up the world, and the great financial sector was feeding everything. The main building blocks of today's developed economy were being laid, but there was also a dark side, the steady rise of elite empires. Among the 7 great families that ruled the world, Rockefeller held the black pearl oil. In his hands, J.P. Morgan could shake the entire financial sector with a single phone call. Carnegie, Gould, and others grew rapidly by eliminating competition rather than defeating it. Wealth didn't just mean power. It became a weapon. At this time, the working class was struggling to survive under very harsh conditions. Working 12 to 14 hours a day wasn't seen as strange. Coal miners were dying slowly and painfully, steelworkers even faster. Even the children of families had to work in factories. Not luxury, but survival required it. Safety, minimum wage, unemployment insurance? None existed. If a person died in a workplace accident, the company immediately found a replacement, because there were plenty of people who could take his place. And if you tried to speak up, private police or soldiers were sent in. Politics? It didn't offer much comfort. Senators could be bought with money, newspapers could be manipulated by their owners, and the law was usually on the side of the powerful and wealthy. Democracy existed, but for most people the government seemed like a branch of the trusts. As time passed, collapses began to arrive. The Panic of 1873 turned into a crisis lasting years. Then the 1893 crisis. Many banks, thousands of businesses slowly disappeared. The Great Strike of 1877 began turning into street battles. These were no longer small economic problems. They were alarm bells showing the system was collapsing. But here's the forgotten part of the story. America did not give up. It did not accept this order as fate. A journalist, a reformer, a lawyer, a union, and a few brave presidents said, "Enough." The first critical step came with the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. It was not easy at all to try to limit monopolies, but for the first time America declared that the economy was not the private property of a few people. Then came the muckrakers. Ida Tarbell began exposing the behind-the-scenes operations of Rockefeller. Upton Sinclair wrote about the horrific conditions in meat factories and shook the nation. People began saying, "This system shouldn't continue like this. Something must be done." And then Theodore Roosevelt took the stage. Energetic, brave, even a bit theatrical. By breaking up Northern Securities, he sent a message. No company is untouchable. He regulated the railroads and tightened federal oversight. Still, when the Panic of 1907 came, it wasn't the government but the great J.P. Morgan himself who saved the market. The man literally acted like a one-man central bank. This event woke up countless people. One person controlling the national economy was unacceptable. Thus, in 1913, the Federal Reserve was born. The reforms continued. Restrictions were placed on child labor, workplace safety improved, the 8-hour workday began to be accepted, and income tax was introduced to counter massive fortunes. And for a while, it really worked. America didn't destroy capitalism. It brought order to it. But the story didn't end there. Over time, these protective rules slowly faded from memory. After the 1970s, the idea of less government became iconic. Regulations were loosened, mergers exploded, tax rates fell, finance was deregulated, unions collapsed. A slow but definite reversal took place. Today, the distribution of wealth resembles the 1890s once again. The richest 1% owns nearly half the country. A handful of the wealthiest families added trillions of dollars on their own. This time, monopolies aren't in steel. They're in technology, data, platform economies. Backdoors that steer competition, algorithms, massive data flows. The modern versions of old trusts. And again, many people feel the system is unfair. But hope lies exactly here. Because a century ago, we were in the same place. Back then, there were those who said, "This is how it's always been. This is how it will always be." But it didn't stay that way. People pressured. Journalists exposed. Leaders acted. Laws changed. The system was rebuilt more fairly once again. The same is possible today. Because the rules of the capitalist game are not laws of nature. They are just rules written by people. And if people want, they can rewrite them from scratch. It happened before. Can happen again. This is not nostalgia. It is a real lesson history left us. If you like this perspective, let's keep looking for the answers in history together on this channel. Let me show you where to look.